Hello everybody and welcome to the support material for Multimediale Werkzeuge Seminar 3, and this time we will talk about HTTP requests. So we'll go through some examples using web APIs and the requests Python library. So first, let's start with what is HTTP. So HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. www is about communication between web clients and servers, and the communication between client computers and web servers is done by sending HTTP requests and receiving HTTP responses. So here at w3schools.com you can find some more information about what is HTTP and the HTTP request and response. So communication between clients and servers is done by request and response. So a client, for example a browser, sends an HTTP request to the web server receives the request, the server runs an application to process the request, then the server returns an HTTP response, an output to the browser, and the client receives the response. As we're talking about types of response, there is also JSON, and JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's a lightweight format for storing and transporting data. JSON is often used when data is sent from a server to a web page. And JSON is kind of self-describing and easy to understand. And here is an example of a JSON, and this example defines an employee's object and an array of 3 employee records. There are some rules, and you can read more about JSON here. So, talking about HTTP, it works as a request response protocol, and there are some HTTP methods. So we can use get, post, put, head, delete, patch, options, connect, trace, and so on. One method that's very used and we're going to use in our seminar is the get method. And get uses to request data from a specified resource. So note that the query string name and value pairs is sent in the URL of the GET request. In our seminar we are going to use a web API, specifically the Wikipedia web API, but in the support material we will see other examples of APIs. And an API stands for Application Programming Interface, and a web API is an application programming interface for the web. So now that we know about web APIs and HTTP requests, we can go through the requests HTTP library for Python. We will use an example from the Wasabi API. So there is something called the Wasabi Dataset, which is the Wasabi song corpus. That it's a large corpus of songs enriched with metadata extracted from music databases on the web. And we also have a Wasabi API that we can get information from this Wasabi dataset. So in our first example we are going to use the requests library to get some information from the Wasabi dataset. So first we are going to import requests, and we are going to use this request.get method, and here we have this string which consists of a URL, and this URL has many different parameters. So we can use, for example, this is the base URL, and then we're going to search an artist by an artist name. We are defining a name here, that's slash. Then we are using this request.get, and it returns some response, and this response in this case is in the format of JSON. So when we do this r.json, we will get here our response. So how do we know about these parameters here, search, artist? Well, every API has some kind of documentation, and here at wasabi.i3s.unis.fr API doc we have some documentation there. So there are different API fields and we can, for example, get an artist document by the artist name. So then we would have this base URL here, and then we have artist name, and then, for example, if we use Metallica, then we will get this response here. And it's the same if we copy this URL, we paste in our browser, and we have this response here. What we're going to do the same, but we're going to use the request library from Python. So here's the base URL. We want to search an artist by a name, so we define a name, and then we have this JSON response. And then we see that Slash was born in London. He's the lead guitarist of Guns N' Roses. So there are some songs which he wrote, some albums, some more information, even some images about his albums. We also have here some URLs, so about Slash on AllMusic, on BBC, MySpace, on Wikipedia, YouTube. So Slash was also a guitar player from Velvet Revolver. So all information related to Slash in this Wasabi database is displayed here, and then you can extract parts that you're interested in and do a lot of interesting things with this information. Another example is now that we are not just going to search an artist, but we will search some bands by the name of a band member. So it's the same example. We are using still Slash, but now we are not using the search artist. We are going to search member name. The name is Slash, defined here. And when we run the cell, so we know that Slash is a member from Guns N' Roses, Slash Snakepit, and Velvet Revolver. So this way you can also get different information. When you go through the documentation, you can get some categories, some information about song by a song name, information by a award name, producers, record labels, and a lot of interesting things that are part of this Wasabi dataset.